Hello, my name's Kelly Shaw, and I'm here to talk to you about cyber threat intelligence and large language models and how you can use BARD from Google to actually help you with your cyber threat intelligence analysis. So, this is the regular BARD interface right here. You have to go to bard.google.com in order to get signed up onto their waiting list. And I don't know how long it will take now, but it took a few days for me to actually get my account going. And once I did, you're presented with this page here. And so I am going to type in a couple of different, well, a ton of different prompts. These are called prompts um, that are used to query the large language model. Similar to regular Google search, but you can type in complete sentences with as much detail as you want. So right now, I'm going to show you what it says when you type in enumerate the steps of the ICS cyber kill chain and how Stuxnet malware maps to this kill chain. But instead of ICS, I'm going to use the Lockheed Martin cyber kill chain, and I'll tell you why later. And then you just run it, and it takes a couple of seconds, depending on load, I guess, and it should come back with a great break. And here it is. So let's see how close we are. Reconnaissance, weaponization, delivery, exploitation, installation, command and control, actions on objectives. That sounds right. That the thing about these large language models, and they will tell you if you watch any other YouTube videos, is that you can't trust them 100% to be correct. So you want to, what is it? Trust but verify. But in this case, I think it looks like a reasonable answer. So now it went over and mapped Stuxnet uh, to the kill chain, which I think is pretty neat. The reconnaissance portion, the weaponization, and talked about what it needed to target, um, how it was delivered, how that particular malware was delivered, and what it exploited, took advantage of a couple of different Windows operating system vulnerabilities, installed itself, and did its thing. So this is pretty neat. So, but this is the Lockheed Martin cyber kill chain. The reason why I didn't use the ICS cyber kill chain, it didn't really come back with an acceptable answer. Um, and let's see here. So if you're familiar at all with the SANS or the Rob Asante cyber ICS kill chain, it's different than the Lockheed Martin kill chain in that it's basically two iterations. First, you need to gain access to the information technology network. Then you need to gain access to the operational technology network. So it's basically two phases of a kill chain. So what I'm going to do is paste in another question. So enumerate the steps of the ICS cyber kill chain. So let's see what it does. Takes a couple of seconds sometimes. Um, so let's see. You know, okay, it gave us a different breakdown of the steps. Basically, the ICS cyber kill chain is the Lockheed Martin kill chain, and then the Lockheed Martin kill chain again on the OT side. In general, there are some changes, but it looks like it's missing a few steps here, and so I didn't like this answer, but that's okay. You can, and I won't do it now because I've already complained, but you can hit the fingers down, and type in Y, and it kind of helps train the next iteration. Um, Here's another question that I asked it the other day, and let's see. This one is how can small business owners take mitigations against ransomware? So I just typed that in there, hit run or submit, and it will come back in another second or two. Look at these answers. Educating employees about phishing scams, use strong passwords and multi-factor authentication, keep software up to date. These are reasonable answers. You might think, well, how's this different than Google, just the regular Google interface? Well, I don't think it's presented out in such a neat format. You have to click and go into different pages and then kind of maneuver around until you've kind of put all this together yourself. So there are differences. It returned an answer that has taken advantage of sentence structure and composition. Here's a neat little feature. You can click on View Other Drafts, and there are three different ways that it took advantage and wrote it slightly different, the answers. And if you click on it, you can see how the answers vary. But and then there's some sources. Um, Not necessarily good with sources yet, um, which would be interesting to see how that works out. So let's try a different question. These are just examples of things you might try um, when you're doing research. Look at this question. Um, what countries create the most zero-day cyber attacks? And then I added another step. Now sort these by date. So you can put different follow-on instructions inside the same prompt. Type that in, hit run, submit. You can tell I'm old school. Um, Takes a couple of seconds. And look at this. I don't know if this is right, but I'm going to trust that what they have here is at least plausible. Um, of course, United States is number one. Just kidding. Um, but in this case, we've got an array of people, array of countries, top 10. And then it talks about, a few more little things here. In 2020, there were an estimated 4,600 zero-day exploits, up from 3,600. So I don't know if that's true right now. I would have to do research to find that out. Um, Talks about Recorded Future, threat intelligence provider. Um, that's that's a looks like it's a plausible, correct answer. Um, it admits the author's note about. So this is probably most likely not copied verbatim from a different text or online website, but it's the large language model putting these sentences together and kind of estimating or guessing or predicting what word would go next logically. And so that's how it goes to and pieces all of this together. But then look, it tells you how to take mitigation steps. So you want to patch vulnerabilities. These are all plausible. Have an incident response plan, education, use a firewall. These look like answers that would definitely help. So right now, the Ukraine is in the news, and so I thought I would see what Bard would respond with a Ukraine cyber question. Now, in this case, if I'm not mistaken, Bard is only using data from up to 2021, so it's not totally up to date, but this shows you a good, well, hopefully, let's see, it shows you a good answer. So I hit submit on that. So this is neat. Tabular form, it did this for me. Wow. Cyber attack, Black Energy, um, other different banks, 2017, the power grid attacks in 2015, 2016. It talks about who might have done it and what was the victim. Doesn't get into specifics. Talks about some. Look at this. Now, I don't know how this got in there. Maybe. Um, well, actually, I was thinking of the GPT model from OpenAI. GPT-3, I believe, is up to date to 2021. Bard, I don't know. I can't remember where the source language model comes from. If it is also including Chat GPT, or which is GPT-4. Um, it admits it's not an exhaustive list. Um, Talks about attribution. This is a really plausible answer. It's a good start if you're trying to do research. This gives you some things to try and look at. don't trust. Here's 3 different versions. Um, let's see how they look different. They're very similar um, in their responses. Let's try one more. I'll type this one in. Let's see. I was going to use a different example, but here's one. Let's look at critical infrastructure. So, which nation state has targeted look, misspelling or missed a word, United States critical infrastructure for cyber attack, and when would they attack? These are just sample questions that one would throw in. I probably should have been a little bit more generic, but this shows you kind of some of the details. So let's see. It's difficult to say. Talks about remember the list of the top uh, nation states that are into cyber attacks. That's partly there. So why would they do it? To disrupt critical infrastructure, economic damage, economic loss, definitely plausible. To steal intellectual property, that's definitely true. Uh, Discord and chaos, certainly plausible answers, and also to gain an advantage. So what an answer. Imagine typing that into Google. Maybe we will. We'll try this at the end. Go back into Google. Okay. So let's try another one. Let's just look at what is known as advanced persistent threats. And I apologize for not going all into the details of all these technical words if you're unfamiliar, but you can use Bard to help you with that, or Google, or any other search engine. But here's what I'm going to do. Enumerate the top 5 advanced persistent threats, their tactics, techniques, and procedures, and their targets. Put the list in tabular format. And so let's see if this makes any sense. Um, on the surface, it looks like it makes sense. Um, they're all it put their TTPs as very similar. It on the surface, it's not surprising. Spear phishing is certainly a valid way to gain entry or access into a victim network, but it breaks down targets, government agencies, technology, APT 28, defense contractors, think tanks, um, 34, government agencies, defense contractors. Um, So again, these may not be exactly right, but these are things that will get you started in your research. Let's see. Talks about, it gives it a caveat here. Very often involves spear phishing, watering hole attacks, 0-day. These are all plausible answers. Maybe not into the exact detail we want, but that comes from changing the prompt around. Prompt engineering will help with that. And if you look in the jobs market, prompt engineering is actually a job that you can get. Targets of APTs are governments, and throws some mitigations. These look familiar. They're very generic, but what a great start to at least showing you the capability of these large language. I think they're called generative models. Um, to those ends, let's ask it about itself. Let's see how I can paste this in there. How can large language models be used to determine the cyber risk posture of an entire power generation station? This is a tough question. Wouldn't we all like to be able to check the risk posture of an entire system, of your house, by talking about your own Internet of Things that are in your house, your Alexa, your Google, and all of these things. So maybe we can try one of those at the end. So let's submit that. Okay. Large language model. This all makes sense. These are things that we, in many cases in this field, tend to brute force our way through. Sometimes using search on our Unix or Linux keyboards, typing in grep, searching and sorting, putting in spreadsheets. Um, this is very interesting. Publicly available information, vulnerability scans. Talks about, let's see, these are things that one would want to look at with large language models. Then you can use it to identify patterns in data that may indicate a security risk. Interesting. Might identify a power station that has been the target of phishing attacks in recent months, depending on what's available in open source. Um, Talks about effectiveness of security controls, the NIST SP800 TAC 50 security controls, and I'm probably wrong on that. I could ask Bard to answer that for me. For example, an LLM might analyze the results of vulnerability scan and identify that a number of vulnerabilities have been patched. Very interesting. Um, Look at this, large amounts of data, identify patterns. These are all plausible answers and reasons that we need to look at large language models. Let's see. So let's try a different question, just to show you kind of uh, some of these techniques that you can use for prompts. So I don't think it's going to give me a 100 at first. I've learned that um, it doesn't necessarily fill you with thousands of answers. So I just limited this down to 10. So enumerate in tabular format the last 10 cybersecurity advisories issued by CISA. Let's see what it says. Okay, it popped it into tabular format. Great. Um, Now I don't have the website up. These look like correct answers with regards to advisory numbers, correct titles, date issued. Um, it says this is not an exhaustive list. Now, what if I want to see more? Now list 10 more results in tabular format. Let's see what happens. See if they're different. Okay, that one started at 53A. Is 53A in here? No. These might all be, they look like they're all different and unique. And look at this, they're issued in 2022. Bard is up to date. Maybe I can switch over real quickly. Let's see, I'm going to switch over to my GPT chat here. And let's see if I can't, I might have to log back in. Let's see. I apologize. This is not a professional presentation, but I've already worked today and I can smell supper cooking. Let's type this in. Enumerate in tabular format the last 100. Well, let's see what it does with 100. So remember, I said that ChatGPT doesn't have access to necessarily the most up-to-date data. It's not connected to the internet for it to do live queries. Let's try a different a question from earlier while I'm over here, and then we'll. So they've gotten a little bit of security measures put in place, so you it prevents someone from querying like how do I make a bomb or how can I hack. But so that's interesting. I haven't finished playing with Bard yet. From what I understand, Bard is so enormous. It used 175 billion different what's known as parameters um, to help it go through the data. When I looked at the latest web scraping, um, there were 3 billion different web pages that, this is what these large language models look through. Common Crawler is the commoncrawler.com is the website that I'm talking about that actually goes out and crawls periodically and feeds it into these large language models. Okay, so back to Bard, and I've probably gone on long enough, but let's try this. I want to show you specifically and I'm using United States just because it's easier, and perhaps these databases or these models were trained using mostly United States or English data. But let's see. I want to see in tabular format cyber attacks to critical infrastructure in the last 10 years. So not an exhaustive list. Look how it puts that caveat in every time. But these look plausible. No, this is not right that I know of. It was mainly targeted towards uh, the victims were in the Middle East, from my understanding. Um, but we can certainly ask Google and Bard. This looks plausible. The 2013 Black Energy, not Petya, that was in the news. We know that from just open source. The DNC, WannaCry, SolarWinds hack, Microsoft Exchange hack, and I didn't ask it, but it showed me some things that you can do to mitigate. Let's try this again. Now list 10 more results in tabular format. Let's see what happens. Nice. Now it didn't finish filling in the impact. Maybe that's not available, but let's see. Some of these I've not heard of myself. Um, they might be in the CISA KEV, the known exploited vulnerabilities um, website. We might already have that information. Kind of looks like we do from a CISA perspective. Um, enumerate the components of the data. Okay, now I want to know a little bit more details. And let's see. Let's do this. Describe the hardware and software components of a let's just say typical wastewater treatment plant. Let's see what happens. Okay, hardware and software. These I learn more and more each day. Sludge treatment units, filters, effluent pumps. These seem plausible and correct. So let's look at different sections. Document management systems, work order, process control systems. So let's do this. Let's enumerate the components of a process control system in a wastewater treatment plant. Now, I'm thinking I could have left off this part because it's working with the latest results, but let's see what happens. PLC, the actuator sensors, doesn't strictly mention PLCs. HMI, SCADA's plausible answers. These can help. So what are some cyber threats to, let's just put in here SCADA HMIs, human machine interfaces. Let's see. Okay. These things seem plausible. You might think they're generic, but a lot of times the HMIs are running embedded versions of just Windows. Um, so in general, this is pretty neat. Um, we've learned a lot today about Bard.Google and ChatGPT. Maybe another video will come up about that. And I also want to show you later how you can use these large language models to actually write code, and then you can cut and paste it into a different terminal window and run it yourself. So let's see if I can hit and end this properly. And let me know, send comments my way to let me know what you think, or if you want to do this yourself and have a video, I can tell you how I did it on my MacBook, and we'll go from there. Thanks.